Hi. So I was thinking about how the UK moving to the UK impacted my autism traits. Um, it was part of the discussion I had with my psychologist. Um, I think what I said to her was that I did better back home in Nigeria than I did moving over here. It's not because work is more stressful. It's not because I have to run for work when I lived in Nigeria, I lived in a slower town. I lived in the far north, so the pace of living was a bit slower. There was a better work-life balance. Yes, that's true. Moving to the UK, I live in London, and so it's a fast-paced town. Everything seems to move fast, even work. Um, and yes, that has an impact and it has a role. However, that's not the core challenge I face with my traits. The core challenge is about the society, how they react to different aspects of my traits. Back home, I think I was allowed to be myself. I think people were more okay with me being me. What does that mean? Okay, for example, I will talk about how I cut across work in particular. When I started working as a nurse, I was just about 21, and my colleagues soon found out that I was not the type with chit chats at work. So it's an 8 hour shift. I show up for my job, I go straight into my job. I probably showed up in the morning and maybe I said morning to everybody, and maybe I didn't. Maybe I showed up in the morning and they said morning and I said morning, and that's it. And I would go straight to what needs to be done. What folder am I looking at? What patient am I taking care of? Has there been an allocation of what my duties are? And I will go straight to my duties, straight to the vitals, straight to the drugs, whatever I need to do. I am taking my job allocation and I'm focused on it and I'm getting it done. Um, Throughout that 8 hours, I don't do chit chat. I don't ask my colleagues, oh, how was your weekend? Really, that's not my thing. And if you ask me, oh, Hadiza, how was your weekend? I'm like, fine. So I think people stop asking me because they know I'm not going to talk about it. And then I don't usually ask so. And then I also had on a shift, I would have 2 to 3 other colleagues working with me. And so I think they had people they could work with, and they didn't have to chit chat with me the whole day. So they had other people they could talk to. And so I could work with this bunch of nurses, and I didn't have to say anything that wasn't work related. I didn't have to say anything that wasn't essential. I didn't have to say anything that wasn't needed. And they didn't punish me for it. I think that's why I'm saying that they allowed me to be me. There was no consequence for that attitude of mine. There was nobody saw it as something to be punitive about. So, I got my job done. I ticked the boxes. I'm efficient. I get it right. There's no error. There's no mistake. There's nothing. So that's it. I'm fine. I was just seen as an introvert person, and that was the end of the story. She's just introvert. She's just like that, and that's it. And my colleagues sometimes they have talks, and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm working with Hadiza," and it's just like it's Hadiza, so it's a boring day. She's not gonna make it exciting. She's not gonna say anything. And I could be there. I mean, there are people who have said that to my face, and I don't say anything. I don't get involved in it. I mean, there's nothing for me to say. You said You're working with me. Of course, you're working with me. Uh, I didn't know I was supposed to interpret it. I didn't know I was supposed to react to it. I had no reaction to it. And it was fine. And that has been my life for maybe another 15 years of working in Nigeria. And I'd worked across so many fields. I did work as a pediatric, in a pediatric hospital. I was a general nurse, but I worked in a pediatric hospital for some years. I think I did about 1 year there. Then I worked as a general nurse somewhere else. Then I got my midwifery, and I worked in on a midwifery post. I did some antenatal jobs, some immunization jobs. Went back to get anesthesia, nurse anesthetist, and did work in theaters for some years. And throughout that 15 years of career, the only gossip is she's an introvert, she's an extreme introvert, she's antisocial, she doesn't talk to people, she doesn't, Adiza wouldn't say anything. She's just going to be quiet. She's just going to look at us all day and never say anything. They have their opinion, but it didn't result into any consequence. It didn't stop anything. It didn't stop me from getting promotions. It didn't stop me from getting a job. It didn't stop me from getting recommendations. It didn't show that anybody hates me. They just saw me as me. And it was fine. Then I moved to the UK. The story is different. So over here, they just expect you to participate in small talks. It's annoying. Yes, it is annoying. Everybody wants to ask you how is your weekend. I'm like, leave me alone. I had a weekend, leave me alone. But they want to ask you about your weekend and they want you to give a story. So I usually just say, I slept through the weekend. There's nothing to tell. It doesn't matter what I've done during the weekend. I don't want to talk about it. It's not because I'm being secretive. It's because I really do not enjoy small talks. So I'm looking like I don't want to talk about it. So, how was your weekend? I'm like, I slept through the weekend. But they also expect you to ask them how was their weekend. And that's where I failed the exams. Nobody told me it was an exam, And so I don't ask, how was your weekend? I don't. And that's bad of me, apparently. They want to have chit chat. They want to know about you. So do you have a boyfriend now? I'm like, what? I'm shocked. I didn't know that was part of conversation I should have with my colleagues. Oh my God. So I guess I failed in so many ways. I couldn't have the little small talks. I wasn't doing well with it. I turned down so many invites to attend parties and ceremonies and all that. I literally committed a crime for not attending a bridal shower. Not only did I fail to attend, my crime was solidified when I failed to congratulate the woman when I saw her the following day at work. Yeah, I'm still ashamed of that. And I had to get out of that job. Because they literally hates me after that. They couldn't stop. The hatred showed. Everybody hates me. Everybody had an opinion. They concluded I wasn't just antisocial, apparently, according to them. By the way, I'm not antisocial. That word doesn't apply because to be antisocial is actually to have behaviors that are not compatible with the society, behaviors that are not acceptable in a way that it threatens other people's rights. I do not threaten people's rights, so I do not understand why they have to label me as being antisocial. But that was their decision. They did put the label somewhere. And then, of course, since I wasn't attending parties and birthdays and ceremonies and wherever, even though I was invited and I wasn't giving good enough excuses and all that, they decided I have a way of making people look small. I didn't know, but that's not the first time I've heard it. And they also decided, so at the end of the day, anyway, there was a campaign to get me out. And so I ran away before the campaign was fully matured and I had to leave the job. But as a result of that, when I got my next job, I had to learn some small talk, some chit chat, some attending some parties, some I had to make adjustments. The consequence of that adjustment was that I went through a burnout. Um, I went down the slope, and as I went down the slope, I needed to call for help. So because of that, when I got to my new place, I made adjustments in I learned the chit chat basically. I learned the small talks. I did learn some things, or I tried to, or to use the correct word would be to learn how to max properly. So I tried to pretend to be interested in the small talks, to have the chit chat. I learned to ask people about their dogs and their weekends, and tell some stories about my boyfriend, of course. Um, did it work? I think it did. It's the consequence that I'm only talking about. There was a consequence, and the consequence was I went down the hill because my energy was consistently burnt out. And as a result of it being consistently exhausted every single day, the result was I slipped into a burnout. And so as I watched myself go down the hill, I had to call for help. So went into therapy, eventually got assessed for autism because all my traits were I lost the skills that I had previously. I went into regression, a lot of stuff. And so I had to start therapy, seeing a psychologist, and all that kind of stuff. Um, so that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about it. I just want to talk about, as I said to my psychologist, she did agree with me. She did say that autism is actually a mismatch between a brain type and a society. And I said yes. The UK society did push me overboard. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.